You're listening to the Cynic Radio Podcast. Now, your hosts, Igri and Cynic.
You are listening to episode 21 of the Cynic Radio Podcast. I'm your host, Cynic. Joining me as always, my co-host and frequent Menzies user, Igri. Our very own X23 Jules is joining us again this week, and he's more man than machine, the host of the Jim Wits Podcast, Mr. Ryan George. On this week's show, we're going to be doing a little bit of scavenging for guns and discussing episode 12 of The Walking Dead, Say Yes, and a spoiler-filled review of the blockbuster Marvel hit, Logan. We are the Cynic Radio Podcast, and we knew healthcare could be exactly this complicated.
All right, boys and girls, Vulcans, Wookiees, and whatever else has been sending us all these messages. You asked it, we're answering it. This is listener mail.
Dean from DC writes, you refer to Ryan George as the host of a Jim Wits podcast. Well, number one, what's a Jim Wit? And number two, what's the show about? And number three, how would I find it?
All right, so number one, a gymwit is somebody who is into fitness but doesn't take themselves too seriously. We're a fitness-based podcast, but we try to be real and honest. And again, we're not meatheads who just spew kind of industry jargon. We try to tackle real questions and real situations. We also try to blend things that aren't necessarily you wouldn't necessarily think are fitness related and make it kind of how can it help you with health and wellness. Like we have a couple cool episodes coming up where we're talking to a dog expert, and we're talking to somebody who's an expert on virtual reality and augmented reality, and we had one about 3D printing. So we try to take things that you might not instantly think, oh, that's fitness, and then try to connect it, but also just talk about whatever it is. And again, we don't take ourselves too seriously, which is why we call ourselves the Jim Wits. We do have the greatest theme song ever. So even if you don't want to listen to a fitness podcast, listen to the first minute, because it is probably the best theme song for any podcast. Yeah, that's it. So I think hopefully that answers the question. You can find it on iTunes, Stitcher. We have an app. So it's kind of all over the place where you would find a podcast. But yeah, that's it.
My good friend Frank from Portland Morris writes, I was confused when Negan sent Dwight out to hunt for Sherry. Wouldn't he be the last person he should send? By the way, I love the show, guys. Keep up the good work. I listen every week. Frank, that's a good question. I kind of had thoughts on that myself. They've already run away together once. You would think that he would at least sent someone with Dwight, and then to swallow the lie right away when Dwight came back, like, oh, she's dead. No proof of a body. Like when he brought the last guy back, Negan's just going to go ahead and take his word for it. What'd you think about the decision, Nick?
Well, I thought that was just Negan trying to assert his authority some more. That was Negan looking like, I already have you beat. You tried to run away before. We caught you. We brought you back. We put you to work. We gave you the iron. You aren't going to pull this shit again, are you? So I think that was Negan trying to see what he was actually doing. And I'm not sure that Dwight would have brought her back. I think he might have tried to run again, but he didn't find her. So he came back with a different story, because where else is he going to go? But I agree with you. He probably should have sent somebody else, but I think Negan is too full of himself. And that's just part of who Negan is, part of why I love him.
I'm going to call it out now. They've been clamoring for a Daryl romance. I get this feeling that she's headed that way, and that's going to be a possibility for the show. Claire from Philly writes, IG said something about a contest. Do you guys care to enlighten us?
Yeah, absolutely. Over the next 4 episodes, including this one, there will be a keyword. Just kind of like on The Talking Dead, we're going to have a keyword, but it's going to be spread over 4 episodes. At the end of the 4th episode, contact us at CINIKRADIO@gmail.com. Send us the 4 keywords along with any kind of proof of subscription to iTunes or YouTube or whatever the Android platform is that I don't know because I've got an iPhone. And we will send you out a nice gift. I think we're going to get an autographed photo from one of the main members of the Walking Dead cast, and we'll send that out to you. Just, again, listen to the show. Send us some proof that you do listen to the show. Send us the keywords, and find us at CINIKRADIO.com and CINIKRADIO@gmail.com. You can send us your questions. We'll answer those, too.
Miss out on that latest viral video? Didn't see the most recent trailer for the next movie coming out? In the dark about what the biggest song in America is? We've got you covered. Every week we scour the internet and look for the latest and greatest. This is What's Up.
Hey guys, my What's Up this week is for season 34 of Survivor. Can you believe this? Season 34? I'm feeling old. This season is entitled Game Changers and is bringing back some fan favorites for another chance to win and some winners to see if they can do it all over again. I love the seasons when we get to see some past players. They're usually full of twists, and this season should be no exception, as I've read that there's some changes that are going to be happening to some of the rules. I'm very excited to see Michaela Bradshaw, who competed on season 33 of Millennials versus Gen X Survivor, and she got epically blindsided, in my opinion, because I had my money on her to take it all the way, but I was proven wrong. Hopefully she can do it this season. So Wednesday, March 8th on CBS, Survivor. That's what's up.
So what's up for me this week is Star Wars Aftermath, Empire's End, which is the third book in Chuck Wendig's trilogy, which is set in the aftermath of the events of Return of the Jedi. So if you're a Star Wars fan or not, basically there are tons of content, tons of books. And when Disney bought the franchise, they basically got rid of it all so that nothing was canon. And they were going to restart the world based on just the movies and the Clone Wars. And then everything else was going to be reset. And so the first book in the trilogy was highly anticipated, and it was disappointing for a lot of people, including myself, for a number of reasons. But it didn't connect to The Force Awakens enough or really at all. And it didn't follow the core, Han, Luke, and Leia. It kind of created its own characters. But this book, the third book in the trilogy, finally pays off on what the groundwork set by the first two. It's really good. By this point, you've the new characters have been established. It's a great story. It features the core characters. It features Han, and Leia and Chewbacca and Mon Mothma, and it's just a really great story that connects the new characters with the old characters and also connects to The Force Awakens really well. So it finally starts to show what happens to the Empire and plants a lot of seeds. There's lots of interesting things. He does a great job with these interludes, which are not connected to the real story, but give you little bits and pieces of the universe at large and hints at things like the Knights of Ren and hints at things like kind of the Church of the Force. And so there's all these interesting little things going on that that are kind of seeds planted for new potential stories. So I definitely recommend it if you're a fan of Star Wars. Even if you haven't read the first two books, it's a solid read. And I went through that. I just couldn't put it down over the course of a couple of days. So I would definitely say that Aftermath, Empire's End is what's up for me.
What's up for me this week? Even though it hasn't felt like it over the last few days in the Northeast, it's time once again for spring training Major League Baseball. Coming off a 2016, which was an amazing year for the sport, it had a great regular season, a very exciting postseason, and one of the most closely contested down-to-the-wire World Series, featuring a 3-1 comeback, ending in a Game 7, which many people call the best game ever played. The Chicago Cubs broke the longest title drought in sports history of over 100 years, and fans all over the country are able to once again dream their team going all the way and say, why not this year? Major League Baseball 2017, spring training, which means summer is right around the corner. For me, that's what's up.
What's up for me this week is the 3-minute and 42-second trailer for the next Deadpool movie. It previewed before Logan. It was wonderful, and it is available on the internet. You can find it basically everywhere. Best place to find it is on YouTube. You can find it. It's called No Good Deed, and it's really, really funny. And we all love Deadpool here at the Cynic Radio Podcast, and we can't wait for the next Deadpool movie. So go check it out. No Good Deed, Deadpool on YouTube. That is what's up.
Walking Dead Episode 12, Say Yes. Let's get going. Meanwhile, back at the Bang Bus, Rick and Michonne are on a steady diet of scavenging by day and making sweet, sweet love by night. Julie, one of the biggest complaints about Rick Michonne was people felt the pairing lacked chemistry. After this episode, do you still feel that's the case?
Oh no, I definitely got the chemistry from this episode. They are definitely in a honeymoon phase of this relationship. Can't keep their hands off each other, and they're just very excited to be around one another. So there's no doubt in my mind they have a great chemistry. I think they both really add something to each other, which is what every great relationship should be. Makes each other stronger. So I definitely felt that chemistry.
It's funny. I never felt that they lacked too much chemistry, but it, everything in TV has to be enhanced. So I guess they never had that passion or forced they were never really forced on us in a way that we would really feel. So I thought that yesterday's episode showed them just to be a little bit close, as how close they are. It always felt like the family thing worked for them. They almost like bypassed the passion and that beginning of a relationship thing and went right to like being a family. So maybe that's also why it kind of had the feeling of them not having that chemistry. But yeah, I felt it was real, watching the episode last night.
How about you, Ig? Are they? Is this a real thing, or are they just having a good time?
Well, I think it's a real thing, but I think it's one of those real early stage real things still, because I'm not sure. It really becomes a real thing when the rest of your family becomes involved. Now, Judith is starting to become aware of things, as we see later in the episode, and Carl, obviously, I don't know if he knows to the extent that everything has been happening with the Rick Schoen meta. Hoping that they kind of bring Carl in, because if you're going to be a family and do things together like that, then you really have to involve the children. That's the part that's missing for me. But the chemistry between them, they are very good together.
I really think that Michonne is still suffering the hangover of a bad start. The writing for her first season on the show was terrible. And she's a bit of a goer in the sense in the comic book, but she's also much, much more human and relatable. Now, they've been working on that with the character, but I have a feeling that if she was written from jump, like she was written in the comic book, that this wouldn't be an issue. We still don't really know a lot about Michonne. There's key pieces of her history missing. We went from badass to the sword to saving Andrea with their kind of weird relationship to, showing up at the prison and being mute. So I think it's taking a little bit of time, but I really like where the character is going. I just wish they would have done it a little bit sooner. If this fan is a rockin', with all the Rickrolling going on, how readily accessible is birth control? Because Rick Grimes strikes me as someone that doesn't pull out of any situation. Julie?
Well, I'm just saying, all I'm saying is I hope that he is. But then there's there's a myriad of questions I have as a follow-up to that. But we certainly don't need any more kids now, do we? I don't know. A nice hot chocolate kid might be pretty awesome.
How badass would the spawn of Rick Schoen be, though? That would be a zombie killing machine.
Oh, my God.
So my question to you, Ryan, Judith Grimes, latchkey kid of the zombie apocalypse, who's raising this kid?
Yeah, I guess she's she's an experiment, because it seems like the community is raising her. I guess that's how this world would have to, that's kind of the world at this stage, is that, people have to work together, kind of like I'm assuming humans worked, way back, thousands or hundreds of thousands of years ago, that it took the kind of quote village to raise everybody. It's just necessary, because everyone has to have a job, and everyone has to have multiple jobs, and you can't just be at home with the kid. So yeah, she has to be raised by everybody, and I think that's how any kid raised in this world is going to have to be raised.
Yeah, but here's the thing. The thing is Rick spends the least amount of time with her. You get your gratuitous, where he picks her up and is like, hey, girl, I haven't seen you for about 10 days. Yeah. And he just seems to keep wanting this, sex marathon to keep happening. And it's it seems to me there's no concern we probably should get back. We do have that kid back there.
Yeah, but I guess so consider, I guess in this world, Rick's kind of like the leader, right? Well, he is their leader. And how many people in our world where if they're business leaders or politicians, how much time do they really spend with their kids? Probably not much. I know plenty. Just in the work that I'm in, I meet with people who've been raised pretty well, or who are very well off, and often I've heard this comment I didn't know my parents very well. My nannies raised me. So I guess in this case, Rick's the leader, and also in the back of his mind, he knows that Judith isn't his, even though he accepts her as his. So there might be whether it's subconsciously or consciously, a part of him that just almost wants to stay away, and he has convenient excuses because he's got to scavenge and he's got to look for stuff, and he is the leader. So that could be part of it as well.
The flip side of that, though, it's not just Judith, because he doesn't spend that much time with Carl either.
I wouldn't want to spend that much time with Carl either. So
He's like, Carl, you're good. You're 14. You're taking care.
That's a good point.
Carl scares the bejesus out of me. I don't want to spend time with Carl either.
I know it.
Negan has Carl picked. So does it take a village of Alexandria to raise a kid? And considering how recyclable that Judith's babysitters have been, we haven't had a lot of good luck keeping them around. What are the abandonment issues going to be like with this kid?
Well, since none of them have been around long enough for her to form that firm attachment, I think that, as long as someone is there giving her food and making sure her butt's clean, everything is good. She doesn't care who it is as long as somebody does it. But taking a village is absolutely true. I mean, that's because that's what's happening. I'm not sure how many of the village have been involved. I mean, I'm pretty sure obviously Tara is, and some others have been in the past, but they just are running through them at such a rapid pace. Hopefully Tara doesn't go out scavenging and run into another group like Oceanside, and this time they don't take any pity on her.
Ryan George, The Walking Dead giveth and they taketh away. Rick and Michonne seem to have found a sweet spot in their relationship. How long do you think it can last?
That's a good question. I think that it will last as long as they're both alive. And then that comes to the question, like, do they have the balls to kill one of them off? I would say that those are the two least likely to die at this stage. Maybe you could throw Daryl in there, but I don't. I guess I think they last as long as they're both alive on the show. But I don't think they'll go through like the breakup and that kind of drama. I just don't see that as something that will happen on this show. But yeah, so that's it. I mean, as long as they're both alive, which I don't see them dying. Although I wondered today, like, do they have the balls to kill one of them off? And I probably not, but you never know.
Old melancholy and the infinite sadness there. Rosita, with her usual sunny disposition, continues to rain salt and be angry. Hasn't seemed to learn her lesson from any of the impulsive actions that have brought danger to the rest of the community. Her desire for revenge is at a boiling point. Has already gotten Olivia killed and Eugene taken. Why does she refuse to not step back and analyze her behavior, Ig?
She's just hardwired to be stupid, I think. She just can't get past herself. She obviously thinks so highly of herself that she thinks she's the one that can solve any problem anytime. And even though she has failed, she's one of those people that just is fine continuing failing. Now, it's true that we all learn from failures. You're never going to get anything great without having some failures on the way, but you really got to make sure that you're doing the right thing, and she's by far doing the wrong thing and not seeing where her individual actions are affecting the group as a whole.
The thing with Rosita that sort of strikes me is it seems like she's kind of dealt with the least amount of loss. I mean, yes, she had this relationship with Abraham and he died, but she seems to have an exorbitant amount of anger within her to deal with and to keep trying to fuck everything up for everyone. She definitely is not learning any lessons as far as I'm concerned, and I think she needs to, I don't know what she needs to do. I'm completely at a loss with her because every time she's on the screen, I don't understand where all of her anger is coming from and why she has such an affront to just stepping back and seeing how her actions are causing detriment to everybody around her. I think that, like Rosita, real quick, I just want to add, she reminds me of just a stubborn teenager that knows everything and doesn't really want to hear what anybody has to say. She's just so pouty and it's just with her arms crossed and all. She drives me crazy.
Yeah, that's a very good analysis. Stubborn teenager fits right in. And there's just no winning with her. You can't tell her anything because she's going to do whatever she wants anyway. She proved that at the end of the episode when she left. She was supposed to have a shift at the guard tower, supposed to be helping the community, and she just didn't. And she had left, and somebody tried to cover for her and say maybe she's out gathering, even though they didn't know where she was. Turns out, nope, she just straight left.
Yeah, while she's out on her own, she stumbles across what looks to be Mama June. in a mobile home, which isn't where else would you find Mama June, and only comes out and only is able to walk away with a toy gun. So she's not even doing the scavenging thing right. Ig, were you slightly hoping that she'd do us a favor and get bit?
No, I'm not necessarily hoping that. I'm still hoping that something turns around for her character. I'm hoping that all of this knowledge somehow she's able to get back. And I know that they basically are trying to sign their one-way ticket to hell at this moment, but I'm thinking that somebody will catch them and they'll get stopped. And no, we're not doing this right now. And all this knowledge that she showed with all the explosives might come back. I'm hoping, I'm crossing my fingers that something else is going to happen or that she dies real soon.
You know, I don't mean to get too personal, and I don't want to divulge anything that you don't want said on air, but I think she ought to do what you did, Ig, and try out a little bit of interpretive dance. I think that may help her out slightly.
Get a hobby.
Little known.
Well, where's she going to find a leotard?
Little known thing that our co-host Ig was slightly out of the age bracket, but he was in the running for a small part on the show Glee.
And I have a point here, and I don't know if that anybody else has noticed this, and I don't want people to come down on me, but does anyone feel like she's getting smaller and smaller? She seems so little and thin to me. I was wondering if that scene was kind of showing she didn't take that walker down with any sort of ease. Obviously, it took her a minute or something to take her down. Do you think they're trying to show that she's not as capable as she seems to think she is?
Well, she's always been 3 shades of worthless and not very adept at hand to hand. So this was about, I don't know, did she spray herself like Bukkake style with walker blood on purpose? Because we all know that going to the throat isn't going to take anybody down in this situation.
It was a real
overpowering throat.
She got her in the 6th or 7th chin, I think. Yeah. So, Ryan, was the physical shape of this walker offensive to you? And did you want to try to train it and get it back into shape?
It was the weekly, how gross can we take it? And it did it. Every week it's funny. I'm like, okay, can they do something that's going to surprise me? And that's one thing is weekly. They do find a way to come up with a walker or a kill that's or shocking. And so I give them credit on that one.
Rick Schoen has seemed to stumble across the dark carnival that the Insane Clown Posse is always yelling about. Who's going chicken hunting? Apparently they're going chicken hunting. They climb up on top of a soggy-looking roof and fall through, and all we hear is laughter. There's been a lot of laughter in the last 2 weeks of the show. The Rick Schoen portion of the show, the scenes that they were on air, for me, were absolutely gold this week. Ig, what are your thoughts on their scenes together and the lighthearted and more positive nature of them?
I did enjoy them. They were a firm departure from where The Walking Dead normally is, but sometimes that departure is a good departure. I think what they're doing is it's the calm before the storm. They're kind of softening us up so they can hit us hard later. Because I think showing that they can be happy and, the metric ton of food that they found in that school was amazing. They're going to have these good things happen to them, and then they're going to get just smacked right across the side of the head real hard, I think, by the end of this season, because they're giving us now 2 episodes in a row where it's not a bunch of bad shit happening. So now bad shit's going to come soon, I'm pretty sure.
Not bad shit unless you're a walker stuck in the windshield of a car, I guess.
Yeah, that guy was falling apart.
He really was. He's an emotional mess. Ryan, what do you feel about the lighthearted nature and positive tones of the Rick Schoen portions of the show?
I think it's necessary. We haven't gotten to explore them as a couple and really explore the dynamic together very much. Like I said earlier, we've seen them kind of as a family unit but we haven't seen them or the relationship really develop much on screen. So I think it was nice to have. I'll explain my only issue. It's I really liked it, but then I'll explain later when we review the overall show, kind of the issues I had with the tone as it relates to the season. But I did like those scenes, and I think they're great in those scenes, and it really did a lot to cement them as cement their relationship in my eyes, and that they make a good couple and they work well together.
Julie, do you think this is in response to the complaints of too much violence from the viewers to offset the hopeless situation our heroes had to endure in the first part of the season?
Not really. I think because they all had to go to the depths of that emotional darkness that everybody, including the viewers, had to sustain and go through with them in the beginning of the season. I think they do need to sort of kind of make it so that we understand that they're having a turnaround here. They're getting their mojo back. They're solidifying their relationships. Their confidence is building, and I think these types of episodes are necessary to prove it, because we're not just going to go from the depths of like, I can't do anything, I can't move, I'm, pretty much paralyzed in fear right now, to, okay, we can take them all down. So I think you need to develop those sort of moments.
I'm not sure that that's why they're doing it. I'm hoping that's not why they're doing it. I'm hoping that they're trying to soften us up so they can hit us just as hard, if not harder, later in the series. I think it would do a disjustice to tone down the violence too much, especially when it's not on walkers. I mean, I'm talking people against people. I think when you have a group like the Saviors, the only thing that is going to solve that is a reckless abandonment and a lot of heavy-duty violence.
Rosita's going through her checklist of People's Day that she hasn't ruined yet, and she gets to Father Gabriel. So she decides to go to the church to spread a little bit of salt. Gabriel concedes that he doesn't know shit about shit, but he seems to drop some hard truths on her. Ryan, do you think Father Gabriel is concerned about Rosita's obvious death wish?
Yeah, definitely. I think I really liked his performance in this episode and that in talking to Rosita, but I definitely think he can recognize it, as he should, but I think he also he realizes it might be helpless. Like it seems like she's set on her path, and I think he also can identify that. So it almost felt like he was speaking but as the words he knew were kind of futile. Like, she's going to do what she's going to do.
We thought Edith was the emo kid of the zombie apocalypse, but apparently it's Rosita.
Yeah.
Julie, is there any reasoning with her?
I really don't think so now. And like we mentioned earlier, you can see at the end of the episode, it just seems like she has her mind made up. She's set her path. It doesn't matter who tries to talk or any sense into her. She knows there's been a lot of loss among the whole group. And to me, it's just another showing how selfish she is yet again, because she's like, I don't care if they have to deal with my loss too. And clearly she's going to bring Sasha with her. So she's not even having the forethought to think down the road of, the group having to lose 2 more people possibly. So it really just shows the level of her selfishness.
Is it kind of like dealing with your oldest daughter?
It's very much like dealing with my oldest daughter. You can tell her exactly how things are going to go, and the lack of personal responsibility, and that's a big thing for me. I mean, she's not willing to say that what she's in and everything that's happened is her own doing. It's always somebody else's fault. Well, I didn't do this because you said so, Father Gabriel, and now look what's happened. It's like, well, but you did this thing that I told you not to do, and somehow that's my fault.
I'm Father Egg.
That's it. I mean, it's just like any young adult these days, and I'm not saying everyone, but a fair amount of young adults these days expects that things are just going to be done right for them, and that any decision they make isn't going to have any consequences. And she's failing to realize that the consequences she's suffering are a direct result of everything she's done to herself.
And that has been Old Man Igri with the You Damn Kids portion segment of this show. We see Rick Schoen have a really hopeful conversation about what comes next, and they haven't been able to do that in a long time. Who should lead the uprising against the Saviors? Rick is quick to point out it doesn't necessarily have to be him. Ryan, should it be Rick Grimes? Is there anyone else that can bring the communities together like he can?
I don't think it should be Rick Grimes. I think he's too impulsive. He's assertive enough to be a leader, but I don't know that they need a single leader. I think that's possibly part of the problem. I don't think it should be him. And I didn't buy the speech at the end. I didn't buy his trying to convince Michonne that she might need to be the leader, because, she's proven to be very capable and a great person to have, but I haven't seen her leadership qualities yet. I've seen she's a great character. And again, she's a great asset and a great person to have on the team. She might be a good leader, but I don't know that we've really seen that. So I didn't quite buy it. And I was a little like, wait a second. So you want to basically, get all the communities together and then be a dictator? Is that how it's going to work? Or what do you mean by leader? Should it be leadership by a committee? Like it seemed, I was a little thrown off by that whole conversation.
Well, maybe if they establish more of a thing like we've got, where we've got multiple branches that can power over each other. Rick by himself, it'd be just like any other country that has a single point of leadership. And we can see in the history of the world, a single point of leadership is always a bad thing. You need to have a further reach. You need to have more people that are involved, because when it's one person and they have all the say, Negan happens. But when it's a bunch of people and they split the say and they kind of vote and make ideas and have conversations, then we get greater things. So even if it's 5 people, that's going to be better than a single figurehead. Rick being in that group, though, I think would be almost necessary.
In a ridiculously written scene, Tara weighs the pros and cons of telling Rick about Oceanside to none other than Judith, who I believe outacted her in this conversation. Jules, what do you think would be Alexandria's best approach to open up communications with Oceanside if they choose to do that?
I think you're going to have to send in a woman. For sure. I think, Rick coming in there is not going to be what they need. And I think at this point, the only person that could, start this process is going to be Tara. She's going to have to make her way back. And it might be a matter of bringing Michonne with her or somebody else that would be good. Because, see, Tara, I don't feel like has the conviction when she speaks that somebody like Michonne might. So I think it's definitely going to require probably 2 people, but you're going to need Tara to kind of get you that far. Otherwise, it does kind of turn into, a possible shootout situation, because these women are on, alert at all times. So you need to be able to get your foot in the door. But I definitely think you're going to have to go with the females.
Yeah, she didn't do a great job last time with them. I mean, if she wouldn't have ran, they probably would have old yelled at her out behind the tool shed. So I don't know if I would be too quick to run back into that situation if I was her. Who do you think Rick should send?
Honestly, I think he should send, Tara because they know who she is, but if they can get Maggie down there, I think Maggie's got the best option of moving some people around. She's very influential, and she is very good at getting people to get on board.
That's a good call.
Maggie would be my choice.
She's very relatable.
In a great show of faith and teamwork, Rick wants to plug the hole in the fence with a car. While he does that, he tells the samurai she should take out 8 walkers on her own. It was, to me, beautifully written dialogue because it shows you how far they came. He just dismissively tells her, he looks at her and smirks and goes, "Come on, you can take out 8 walkers by yourself, no problem." The plan fails and they decide to split up and take the walkers into smaller groups. In one of the more intelligent moves of the series, Rick Grimes decides to climb a Ferris wheel to get a better shot at a deer. Falls off and is almost overwhelmed by walkers. Great acting from Denai as they pull the old Rick is dead, not dead gag, and she goes from complete devastation to elation as her and Rick win the day. IG, has their newly found relationship made them overconfident and possibly a little sloppy?
I think they were a little sloppy in this because I think that they saw opportunities to really improve their situation, and it looked easier than it ended up being. And then my biggest thing is I think Rick got greedy. He saw the deer. He's like, "I owe you a deer. I'm gonna climb this thing. I'll get a good shot at it." And then he sees the horde of walkers heading toward him, and then the Ferris wheel that obviously hasn't had any maintenance since probably 1963.
Has any of them?
Falls apart. None of them have.
I wouldn't get any on.
They're held together by spit and duct tape for the most part.
I wouldn't get on any of those carnival rides if you fucking paid me. Now or during the apocalypse.
But so he gets overconfident, and then he's trying to do something nice, and it ends up biting him in the ass. But then he does a really good Glenn impression, which kind of brought back some Glenn memories, which sadness, but then happiness because there he's alive again. I mean, I didn't for a moment think that he was dead because it's Rick Grimes, motherfucker. You can't kill Rick Grimes.
That's right. He said, fuck your box, and kicked himself out of the back of it. What did you think of the whole scene, Jules?
Yeah, I didn't for a second think he was dead. I thought it was obvious that it was the deer that was they were eating. But I guess other people kind of were confused on what was happening in that moment. I thought when Michonne first thought it was him and she dropped the sword and everything, I thought that was a really poignant moment because you could see everything just leave her body in that moment. She just all the like the desperation, it was just so much just overcame her in that one moment. But that might be the only part of the scene I enjoyed because it just got pretty campy after that.
So you think the throwing of the sword and the jumping into the arms was a little over the top?
Yeah, I mean, it was in the slow motion throwing of the sword and her catching it, and it was a bit much for me to handle. I thought, okay, we went a little overboard on this one.
Little too much R2-D2 shooting the lightsaber at Luke Skywalker there. We can't be doing that nonsense.
It felt kind of out of place to me.
At least they didn't do 30 seconds of head nods before he threw the sword.
Right.
I loved how Family Guy parodied that, where they just kept going back and forth with it. Headed back with a nice haul of food and weapons, Rick can still see that Michonne is feeling the effects of the Rick in the box. The moment you realize you're emotionally vested in Rick Grimes, and I'm going to be straightforward here, there's been twice this season where they've really this half of the season where they got me, where number one, when they had to explain who died when they were in front of the king to Morgan, the anticipation of them telling Carol and Rick talking about Glenn in this moment just absolutely tore me up and made me realize how much I care about the character and how much, we all suffer the loss of Glenn, even though, he's not a real person, but we've all grown attached to him. So he tells Michonne that basically this ride needs to go on with or without them, that they're together now and they're making each other stronger. But if he goes or she goes, somebody has to lead because it's not about them anymore. It's about the future. Do you think Michonne would be an effective leader if Rick was to depart?
Stopgap, maybe, but long-term, probably not. Again, she's just not vocal enough. She doesn't have enough fresh ideas of her own. She's a great survivor. She's somebody that could teach other people to survive, but I don't know as far as leading, that's where her wheelhouse exists.
Yeah, I agree. I think she's a great right-hand person, but I don't see her as the leader. So, I think again, she's really important to wherever she is, she'd be a great asset, a great, right-hand person, hand to the king type, but I don't know that she should be or could be the leader.
I think leadership 101 is that, number one, if you're going to pick a right-hand man, don't burn their face, and then don't bang their girlfriend. And I think that they'll stay loyal and maybe act in your best interest in most situations. Even though I detest their made-up gibberish bullshit language, I love the duck season, wabbit season debates that Rick and Jadis get into. She went as far as asking for the cat back, which I absolutely loved. Jadis gives in to Rick's offer of 20 guns and keeping the cat pretty easily. Do you think she's starting to come around on Rick?
I think she is. I think that, initially they were much lower than that. He said 10, she said 5, and then 6, and then 9, and then he went right to 20. She said, okay. It didn't even take her much more than a second to concede the point. I think she sees the value because my understanding is it's not had been very long between when they first met the Garbage Pail Kids to now. So that being the case, they see that they came back with a whole bunch of stuff right away.
Yeah, I think they're showing. I think they've showed the Heapsters that Rick is more and more of a capable leader, and they don't seem able. They seem like they have a lot of people, but they don't seem very organized. They don't seem very able. And a group has come along that is. They're like, oh shit, we can use this to our advantage. We can get these people to go get stuff for us, and all we got to do is sit back and wait. Sort of like the saviors with no muscle. What did you think of the whole scene, Jules?
The language thing it drives me up a wall. But I think that for sure, when you are dealing with some guy that, what are we saying? Probably a couple of days, comes back already with 63 guns, and he appears to have cleaned some of them. worked on some of them. They're very capable. So I definitely think that she sees in him what she's been waiting all along to find, because we know that they don't like to do that part of the job, but they do have some numbers. So this is going to be I think it's going to turn out to be a really good alliance.
I'm the minority here, I guess, but in more ways than one. But I actually like that. I like their language, so I actually think that I like it's different. It's weird. It's absolutely silly, and it does kind of sometimes feel out of place. But it's fine. You know, this weird little cult that has their own language. I can accept it, and I kind of think it's kind of cool. But I think that they have this weird dynamic, this weird way of engaging and interacting with each other. And I think that in a way, Rick is kind of playing that game with her, you know, even in negotiating the guns. And I think she appreciates that. I think she likes that. I think it's kind of like a hipster type of thing, like, you know, to be kind of contrarian and do what would not work in a negotiation is to go from 10 to 20, but it seems to work, and she appreciates it, and they realize that he's capable, and it seems honest, you know, in that world, you know, who finds 60 guns and gives them up? That's kind of dumb. It really doesn't make sense to do that, but they readily did it right away. So I think that they, you know, like you guys mentioned, they realize that he is capable, but I think also she appreciates that he's playing that game with her a little bit.
Yeah, it gets to me. It gets a sense of what we do as a country. We arm people that pretend to be our friends, and next thing you know, they're their enemies, and they're shooting at us with our own guns. Rosita makes her way to Sasha with a sniper rifle and a plan to take out Negan. They both know it's a one-way trip. Once again, in my opinion, one of the worst written scenes in the whole run of the show. The dialogue was terrible. The acting was terrible. It just made me sad. So, Ig, will their plan get them killed? Will it work? Do we even care?
We care because of the repercussions. We care because it could lead to further bad things for the group of heroes that we've come to love and adore. When you take actions that you're not concerned about the reactions, that leads to bad things happening. And this is obviously something that if they aren't 100% successful, a lot of bad shit can happen. Are we sure that either one of these is good enough shot to take that sniper rifle and absolutely make sure they hit their mark? And are we absolutely sure that just taking out Negan will stop the Saviors from what they're doing? And we're not. I mean, the Saviors need to be taken down the way Rick is looking at it, where you take them all down instead of taking one down. See, they're focused too much on the tree, and they're not seeing the forest.
Jules, do you think that this half-cocked plan may kick the war off before Rick has all his ducks in a row?
I think that's exactly what it's going to end up doing. It definitely is a half-cocked, and Egg is completely right. They're going in this in a suicide pact mission, so they're not really thinking of the ramifications of, you know, them going in with not a full. I mean, Rosita said, "Oh, I listened to what Daryl and Carl said about the inside of the place." There's no way that you can understand what the inside of that complex is just by listening to Carl and Daryl. So they clearly don't even have really any type of clue. And it's just, we're going to go in, guns blazing, and it is what it is. We know we're going to die. But you're right. There's nothing to say that, you know, they're going to end up even finding Negan, that he's even there when they go rush off to do this. So it's bad. It's just going to be bad.
Ryan, your feelings on the episode, and give it your score.
Well, so just to touch quickly on that scene, I agree. Like, the acting wasn't great, and it wasn't well written, but, you know, I guess I do understand things from their perspective, because throughout this half of the season, my thought's been like, how are they legitimately gonna battle with the Saviors? There's just not enough. They don't have enough people. They don't have enough space. They don't have enough weapons. And at this stage, it's not believable that they're gonna acquire that. You know, it's gonna take some really convenient writing for that to work out, unless they kind of stage like a guerrilla warfare against them, but we only got a few episodes left in the season, so I don't see how that's going to happen or work out well. But so from their perspective, I can kind of understand that, like, look, we can't face them one-on-one, but if we take out the leader, you know, maybe that's a start. So, kind of empathizing with him, I can kind of see it, but at the same time, it's not a well thought out plan because they don't really have a real way to get to Negan, and I think it's not enough to know. Oh well, I kind of know what the layout's like. So yeah, I didn't love that scene, but I can kind of understand where they're coming from. It just doesn't. It won't work out well. But yeah, overall, so I like the episode a lot, much like the episode with Eugene and a lot of the episodes that are focused on one character. I like that you get that real, the focus on Rick Schoen, and they needed that, and they did a great job. But I am getting a little bit antsy about the season and the progression of the war that's to come. And I know that they're planting the seeds and setting the stage, but I think overall, the movement, while each individual episode has been strong for the most part, I think that overall it's just still a little slow right now, and I'd like to see some more advancement towards what we know is coming. So I would give the episode itself a solid 8.5, but I would say, like, for The Walking Dead for the season or the half of the season, like, let's get things going a little bit.
I thought this episode was, it's another builder episode, kind of like last week. So I thought it was definitely a good episode. Solidifies Rishon's relationship, and it's getting deeper, and they're getting more confident together. So I definitely think that it was a good episode. It's not my favorite episode. I kind of want more action, and Rosita really brings down the average here because she is so annoying to me, and her selfish actions are just frustrating me. So I'm going to go ahead and give this one a 7.
To me, the whole episode was a tale of two very unevenly acted and written stories. The episode would have been a 10. I have a hard time rating it because the episode would have been a 10 if we could have just stayed on the Rick and Michonne storyline the whole time. I love the ups and downs, no pun intended, of their adventure. The acting between Denai and Andy was on point. I'm also starting to come around to them as a couple. Love them I love how they kind of draw strength from each other when they're down part. However, every time Sasha, Tara, and especially Rosita was on the screen, it was fucking terrible. And it pains me to say it in every way, but we can't just blame it on the writers. Sometimes when people are given the ball in big moments, they fumble. And I think this is exactly what happened here. The previews for next week look solid. As the Kingdom and Carol it looks like the Kingdom and Carol start pushing back a little bit. So I can't wait for next week. I'm going to separate it, and I know this is going to screw up the scale, but Rick and Michonne and their storyline, and even a little bit with Jadis, was an absolute 9 for me. The rest of the show was a 3.
Yeah, for me, I enjoyed the episode, but I agree completely with what you're saying, Cynic. Rosita's worthless, and she's just showing to be more worthless. Her acting lately has been subpar, and I'm not saying subpar because I don't like what she's doing. I'm just thinking that it's not believable that somebody is that shallow, vapid, and doesn't know what's going on. Sasha, I think, is checked out. She's getting ready for Star Trek. And there's just enough other things going on. I would agree with your ratings. I think I'm going to give the episode a 7. So there you go, Cynic Radio Podcast. We're going to call this episode, we'll call it a 7 for the whole episode. We'll be back next week talking about the next episode. We're going to be back at the Kingdom with Carol. Coming up, we're going to be giving you a look at Logan.
It's finally here, the last installment of the Wolverine trilogy, Logan. So let's get right into it. The previews for Logan were very strong, both visually and musically, with great trailers featuring Johnny Cash's Hurt and Kalo's Way Down We Go, as well as a large viral campaign. I don't know over the last couple weeks if you're going on YouTube, but you couldn't click a ad of any sort without Logan popping up. So my question to you, Ig, to start it off right away, did the trailers give away too much of the movie?
No, I don't really think they did. I mean, there was a good amount of stuff to bring you in, to get you interested, to get you really amped up. And the funny thing is, I don't think that the people that are going to go see Logan, you need that much to draw us in. You know, we're already hooked. Hugh Jackman's done a wonderful job playing the Wolverine in so many movies already. I mean, even all the way back to the original X-Men when he compared to now look like a toothpick. He's done a great job. He's mastered the role of the Wolverine. So all of the viral stuff going on is just added to the fire. So it was very good.
I can see where someone could think that, because I think for the most part we knew where the story was going to go. I think there were leaks, and I mean, I'm not a huge X-Men Wolverine fan, but I knew enough about the story in the background to know pretty much what the story was going to be about. So in that way, I mean, there weren't any major surprises. I think the bigger thing, the difference between the theme of the trailers and the movie was just how funny the movie was. Like, I didn't expect the trailers were very somber and depressing. And while the movie was kind of depressing at spots, it was hilarious at spots too. So I think that was the main difference between the kind of the themes between the trailer and the actual movie.
Yeah, I didn't quite catch that it was funny. I might have missed that. I didn't laugh. I didn't laugh very much to this movie. Perhaps you were in a different mindset than I was. I'm not sure. But
all right, from a non-Marvel fan perspective to an uber Marvel fan perspective, we bring our good friend and self-proclaimed Marvel expert Linda into the show. Linda, did the previews give away too much?
So I'm going to be honest, I didn't actually see a lot of the previews because again, being the crazy Marvel fan that I am, I insulate myself from a lot of the media surrounding these movies because I really like going in with a fresh view of it. That being said, I did read the 2003 Old Man Logan run on Marvel Unlimited, but no, I didn't think it gave away a lot at all, honestly. Like, I saw a couple and I was like, all right, it's going to be a road trip with Laura Kinney, and I'm like down for it. So, I mean, that was really the only expectation that I had going into it. Again, I think it's a difference between having a dearth of knowledge about the universe that we're experiencing rather than like, oh, I'm just going to go and, hang out, have an awesome time with my family, watch this cool movie. So that being said, I was really, really pleased with just the entire movie, regardless of how much was or wasn't given away in the trailer.
Linda, were you a previous fan of the other Wolverine movies?
I was. I'm going to admit that it's been a wild ride, but all the Wolverine movies have been pretty great, and I think that they ride a lot on the coattails of Hugh Jackman's performance. I think we often forget that he's like a huge Broadway star and like he's been like classically trained, and I'm like, he's a really fantastic actor, and he just sort of took the Wolverine role kind of as like, this could be fun, like why not? So I think that this movie we really got to see again, and as we've seen in the previous movies with Hugh Jackman, we really got to see the depth of his knowledge and his like real dedication to his craft. So I know that it's kind of wacko to be like, yeah, like that first Wolverine movie was so good because of Hugh Jackman. But honestly, I think that like all the Wolverine movies have really been held together by the depth of the performances of the actors.
Yeah, I believe he's been saving the series from the word go. And Patrick Stewart had a large hand in this film as far as making it interesting and funny. If you wouldn't have included Professor X's character in this, I think we would have lost something because Professor X has been the one thing that's always grounded Logan. Ig, were you a fan of the other Wolverine movies?
I was, but this one seemed to shine quite a bit more than some of the other ones, especially the Wolverine, the original standalone movie. That had a lot of things that I took some issues with that have since in the Marvel Universe been resolved, namely Deadpool, because I love Deadpool, and what they did to Deadpool in the Wolverine was awful. When they came out and now they're making fun of what they did to Deadpool in the Deadpool movies, that got redeemed, and it was great just seeing that they got away from that style. And I think that was a writing thing. Hugh Jackman, the Wolverine, that portion of those movies was still great, but there was other problems in the movie as a whole. The good part in all of the X-Men things, even when he had tiny cameos in some of the X-Men movies, the newer ones, he was still Wolverine. It was still awesome. So yes, I did enjoy them all. The Wolverine, I think, of all of the performances is probably the lowest, though. The very first standalone.
Over the course of the movie, they repeatedly referred to all the mutants as being extinct. Ryan, what do you think happened to them? And do you think they should have done a better job of explaining?
I was fine with them not explaining what went on. I don't know. So I don't know enough about the larger storyline in the comics to say. I know they alluded to something happening with Professor X, but I felt like that was they were referring more to a small, like relatively smaller instance rather than like him having gotten rid of all of the mutants. But I don't think it's one of those things we didn't need to know. It's a mystery, but it didn't have any role in the larger plot. This was a really small. What I really liked about it is it was a really small story in a lot of ways. It was about, and it was really focused on Wolverine and his own kind of evolution, and I think we didn't need extra information. Like they alluded to things to make the world feel real and large, but we didn't need to have everything explained and handed to us. I don't think it would have made the movie a better experience knowing that.
Yeah, I agree with what Ryan says. I know it was, obviously mentioned in it, but I wasn't sitting there. And as you know, I talked to you earlier, I got hung up on some smaller details that really weren't important either. But that was not one of those things that I sat and was sitting there pondering.
How about you, Linda? Any insight into what happened to the mutants? And do you think they should have explained it better to the people that didn't read the comic books?
So I really appreciated how they were subtle about it. And I also appreciated how they made a nod to fans like myself who do know some of the backstory about this. I hope I'm not going to give it away any spoilers since this is apparently a part 2. But basically in the comic books, they treat the mutation gene as sort of a blip in human evolution rather than like the next step of human evolution. So in the context of this movie, they're sort of being like, well, mutations were a mistake and they didn't catch on and they were recessive. And it's sort of like how, redheads are dying out. And that's kind of how they treated mutations in the comic book series. So that's sort of why they took that. And that's especially prominent in the Old Man Logan 2003 run. Also, the incident in Westchester is also another allusion to that 2003 run where in the comic book universe, something very, very traumatic happens and Wolverine actually killed a lot of the X-Men in the X-Mansion under the influence of another mutant. And that's definitely like a huge, huge plot point. And of course, if it was like revealed more in the movie, it definitely would have taken away from the whole like cowboy narrative that we were really, really into. So I was super happy about how quiet it was, where it was just like, nope, we are coming into this with a huge amount of knowledge and history already. We don't need the extra stuff happening to make this like a really compelling story.
That makes total sense. We've seen Wolverine in various periods of his life. Ig, in your opinion, was Old Man Logan the way they should have finished the run?
Absolutely. I don't see any problem with this at all. I mean, we have to remember that at this point, he's probably 200 years old. I mean, he's Chewbacca age. So we need to remember that he's been around long enough to watch a lot of people that he cares about grow up, live their life, and die. And that's a hard life to live. I mean, to have that cycle repeat itself probably 3 times in his life, that's rough. So from a personal standpoint in Logan's feeling, I mean, he's probably just, I'm done. I've had enough of this nonsense. And the way they push to that is great. I mean, and you can see that for whatever reason, he's breaking down. Things aren't healing the way they were. One of his claws gets stuck earlier and he has to pull it all the way back out. He's like, all right, this isn't working. Let's crank this bastard out. It was such a good ending to Wolverine's life, to Logan's life. I really did enjoy it.
This being his 10th overall appearance, can anybody carry Hugh Jackman's sideburns? Should the character be recast? And who would be your suggestion, Ryan?
They're going to. He will be recast. That's going to happen because there's too much money at stake. I think it's going to be really difficult shoes to fill. I mean, he really embodied the character, and he's done such a great job that, even though like I didn't love the first 2, and I think I like the second one. I think I like the Wolverine. I didn't like X-Men Origins all that much, but throughout the entire series, he's always been great. And he's really, I mean, he's to that character what Robert Downey Jr. is to Iron Man. And I don't know how you'll replace it. I think it may take some time. I wouldn't be able to give you a suggestion. Maybe the only person I think like Tom Hardy he's great at anything. He's the first person I think of as like who would be a good Wolverine. But I don't know. I can't think of who would make for a really, really good Wolverine right now because he's Hugh Jackman's just been so great.
My next thing, I want to get closer to the actual physical size of Wolverine. So my next guess for Wolverine, here it comes. You're going to hear it here first. It's going to happen. Danny DeVito.
Yeah, that's a valid cast. 100%.
He's shown a lot of those characteristics in It's Always Sunny, so I would go that way.
And you do make a great point. Like, I think the way to go has to be to a character that fits him physically, because it would be a difference that would right away be a little bit different. Obviously, a huge difference from Hugh Jackman, and it would give us something to focus on as a character, and just completely separate something actually closer to the real character, but also start to try to distance from Hugh Jackman, who again is like embodied that character. But yeah, Danny DeVito. It would be great if they did. There should be some kind of like comedy version of it with the Danny DeVito cast.
I think when you have somebody play the role so many times, it is hard to divorce yourself from that person. Batman was a little different because it's been played by so many people. But even now, I mean, Christian Bale to me is the best Batman there is. So seeing anyone else play him, it's very hard. So I can't even imagine somebody else trying to take on Wolverine.
This is also Patrick Stewart's last movie as Professor X. Which one of the actors will be missed more in the respective roles, Zeke?
It's going to be Wolverine. Wolverine is by far one of the most popular characters in the Marvel Universe ever. Like in the comic universe, in the cinematic universe, all over. Wolverine is pretty much top dog. I mean, yeah, Spider-Man is big. Iron Man is big. But Wolverine just has that cool factor. He's like Boba Fett, basically. I mean, he's just cool. Everybody loves him. Even when he's doing bad things, everybody loves him. While Professor X will be missed, and Patrick Stewart did an amazing job as Professor X, Logan's character is going to be missed by far more.
Definitely Wolverine. I think, both have really embodied their characters, and either one would be hard to replace, but we've already seen a replacement for Professor X. And I think James McAvoy does a great job. I think we have already seen a replacement where I don't know how they're going to replace Hugh Jackman. So I definitely think that while they're both important to their, and both embody their characters, I definitely think Hugh Jackman's going to be the tougher one to replace. And I hope they give some breathing room. I hope they give it some time, because this was such a great ending and a great way to end the character and this series that, I do hope they give it a little bit of time before like rebooting the character and going right. Maybe do like a Netflix series or something like that, where you a little bit you kind of go somewhere else with it, rather than like next year like, oh, new Wolverine, which is probably what's going to happen.
Yeah, I think I'm going to agree with Ryan that we've already seen a replacement for Professor X, and while I don't think James McAvoy's role has really lended itself well to like the gravitas of Professor X, I know that Sir Patrick Stewart is the better Professor X, but I'm pretty sure that I'm happy with what McAvoy's done with the role. Wolverine's by far going to be the harder to replace. And if they do replace him, I agree with the general consensus. Like, they should go something totally different. And I would love to see like a young James Howlett in Canada in the wild in like the 1820s with his stepbrother Sabretooth and like kicking it around there, and like, something, speaking of Netflix series, like Frontier-esque. Remember that series with Jason Momoa? God, so good. So something like that, but with like Wolverine going around and kicking ass and taking that would be my like ideal next Wolverine installment, is baby Wolverine in Canada.
Daphne Keane did a solid job as X-23, but people seem to be a tad bit uncomfortable with the amount of violence she was involved in. So, Julie, would it have been a wiser choice to cast somebody slightly older, and would it affect the emotional arc that Wolverine went on?
Well, again, just being a layman in these sort of comics, I don't know what age she was in the comics. I have not read them. I think it's kind of important to have her the age she is, because it does create a huge emotional tie. I think that's just a personal choice as far as having your child actor be doing these violent scenes, but I think it was necessary to have her be young.
I agree. Again, this is really a departure from the comic books in general. There's not really a basis for this story anywhere in the comic books. But I really enjoyed it. I thought that they did a really great job with her acting. Her little screechy attack mode, like I was just like, oh my God, I know so many children like this that would just love to, like snick it out and like go nuts on someone. So I loved it. I thought it was really, really poignant, and I thought it was well done. And I think that they did a really considerate job of showing just enough violence against this small child to make it emotional, but not enough to where you were just like, whoa, there's a little kid getting hit in the face right now. There were hints, but all the blood was usually like on her body and not her face. She was never really shown to be like actually hit, like not smacked in the face. She was shown to be like maybe elbowed or punched or thrown around. Again, definitely violence against a child, but not to the point where I was disturbed by it, which I think was a really fine line for them.
I agree. I think she needed to be that age. I think for the emotional arc with Logan, for it was cool to watch. I think it was just really like she was a perfect size, and her acting was great. It's just the aggression and the just rage, and just the way that she wouldn't talk for a while, and then she starts talking, and kind of how her behavior kind of necessitated that she be that age. I think if she was any older, I don't know that it would have worked, and I don't know that the emotional connection between she and Logan would have worked. Like like if you take any of those other kids, some of the kids were older, and you put them in her situation, I don't think that they kind of put them in that situation with Logan. I don't think it works. So I think they had the perfect age to fit the physicality of the character, and also have that emotional connection with Logan, which made the ending work. Like he needed that ending, and so and again, if it was any other age, a little bit older, I don't think it works quite as well. And I was okay. We're so desensitized to violence at this point that she did so much damage to everybody that a spirit of the body, who cares? Everything. It was fine for me. It didn't bother me at all that she was that young.
Jackman has stated that age, skin cancer, and a talk with Jerry Seinfeld swayed his decision on this being his last Logan movie. Ig, in your opinion, was it time for him to hang up the claws?
I think it was. I think ending on top is important, and rather than just running it until it's, beat that dead horse until it's even more dead, there's no point in doing that. He's still on top. He's doing a great job, but don't kill it. Let it live, and it's a good time to end. It's a good time to move out, and plus now he gets to eat all the pasta he wants, because he was also complaining about the diet he had to take all the time to do this. And what is it, 19 years he's been doing this or something? It's a long time to try and stay in that kind of shape, and Hugh Jackman is not necessarily a young man, and the older you get, you got to know it gets harder.
X-24, or Wolvie 2.0, what were your feelings on the choice of basically being a clone of Wolverine? Would it have been cooler if it was maybe Sabretooth?
That was what I first thought when I saw the cage. I was like, it's Sabretooth. It's totally Sabretooth. But I actually really liked that it was, hot 20s Hugh Jackman CGI there. No big deal. I liked it. I liked the idea of him having to fight himself and having to come to terms with who he was and having to let go of his past. I mean, it was done in a really unsubtle way in the context of a movie that was honestly, despite the blood and guts flying around, relatively subtle emotionally. It didn't really there was no overarching love arc. They didn't immediately thrust Logan into this character of caretaker. He just sort of evolved naturally that way. So I think that him fighting himself was a good way for him to finally say goodbye to what he was, and for the fans to say goodbye to what he was, and to really accept no, Logan's just this old guy who just wants to retire. Let him have a farm. I liked it. I enjoyed the fact that they kept it uncomplicated, where they didn't try and make it, here's another character, here's another reference, here's another wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I liked that they were just nope, it's Logan again.
Logan is on pace to out-earn the rest of the top 15 movies in its opening weekend. Ryan, do you think it could catch Deadpool at its $363 million mark?
I don't know. I guess so. I was surprised. I think that I didn't give Wolverine as a character the credit that he deserves, and his kind of influence on pop culture. I think, and part of it rides kind of Deadpool, I think, gave him a shot in the arm, and obviously giving it the PG-13 rating. I mean, going from PG-13 to R, and they took full advantage of that R rating. I think it has been a big benefit for the film, and it allowed them to do things that they just wouldn't have been able to do with PG-13. But I guess it could catch up, and I wouldn't be too surprised. I think I was surprised, but now seeing how, and also the other thing is it's just a great movie, and it's benefited from a lot of buzz, and it's his last movie. So I know a lot of people who didn't even see the first two who are really excited about seeing this one. So or who haven't seen any of the movies in the X-Men franchise that are excited about this. So I think they've done the right. Fox did a lot right, and it's paying off for them.
Well, I think it's going to have a hard time catching Deadpool because Deadpool just ended up reaching so many different people even people that are not comic book fans. They started seeing the humor and everything. Now, it's going to do really well, though, because like I said before, Logan is the top superhero. He's the top guy because he's just cool. He's almost anti-hero, but he's not anti-hero as far as Deadpool is. He's just more, I'm going to smoke my cigars and drink my alcohol and everything is cool because I'm that guy. And you guys can't do it, but I can because I'm Logan. So it's going to do well. It's going to have a hard time catching some of the other ones simply because of the other things that were going on, especially Deadpool. It'll be a little rough.
Ryan, final thoughts on the movie and give it your rating.
I thought it was great. It's one of, outside of maybe The Dark Knight, and I love Deadpool. It's probably my favorite comic book movie. It has the right tone. It doesn't feel, obviously it is a comic book movie, but it doesn't feel like, the violence was earned, and it really has a great arc with him and X-23, and it really is. Jackman does a great job. It really has the emotional punch that it needs. He really develops, and he finally gets that. He's been this kind of, there's this juxtaposition with his character where he wants to be by himself, but he's always part of a team, and this is it. And it's a situation where he finally kind of comes to terms with loving someone and caring about somebody and admitting it, and it's played really well at the end. So I would give it a 9.
Oh, that was really well said, Ryan. I totally agree. And like I said, not being a huge fan of this genre, I definitely thought it was a great movie. I found it to be a little bit dark, obviously, and down, sort of how I felt after I left The Dark Knight. But definitely agree that the relationship between him and the little girl for sure gave a different sort of depth to Wolverine, and I really did enjoy this movie a lot. So I would definitely give it a 9.
Yeah, so I loved this movie. Again, I felt a lot of things when I left that theater, and I generally try to restrict that feeling things. But yeah, super sad, really, really upsetting in a really great way, like a really fantastic send-off, like masterfully done. Like, we have to give a lot of credit to the writers for forming a movie that's just really encompasses a lot of the universe without being too obvious about it. It's definitely one of my favorites, and I would definitely give it a 9 as well.
There was a lot of things I enjoyed about this movie, and I thought it was a proper send-off to their version of Wolverine. I don't think Fox ever really got it. I don't think they understand the character. I think Jackman does, but he doesn't have a lot to do or say with which way the movies go. I loved Patrick Stewart in this film. I love Daphne Keane. Even Stephen Merchant, all makeuped up and, kind of a surprise role. I enjoyed a lot of things about it. I'm kind of glad it's over. I really hope Fox does the right thing and hands the character to Marvel. I mean, Jackman's already said the only way he would ever come back is if they made him an Avenger. I'd love to see him get even just a cameo in the upcoming Infinity Wars movies. We know it's never going to happen. So I'll give the movie a solid 8.
Well, here's the thing. I really love any movie that has the courage to kill its main characters at the end of the movie. So Rogue One did a huge thing where they killed all the heroes of the movie, and here comes Logan killing our favorite guy. And that's a lot of courage, and it's a big step to take, but it was the right step. This was an amazing movie. I loved every moment of it, and I'm going to give it a 9. So there you go, Cynic Radio Podcast. We're going to call this one a 9 from all of us. Go check it out. It's in theaters now. Logan, you're really going to love it. Stay tuned. We got really coming up. So now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it's time for Really. I'd explain it. Just listen. You'll get it.
Hey guys, my really this week is for the picture of Kellyanne Conway on the couch in the Oval Office with her feet up under her. This sort of makes me want to bang my head against the wall. People need to pick their battles here. This picture was pretty harmless, and it's pretty stupid if this caused any sort of controversy. I understand everything is viral and whatever these days, but I'm not even sure of the origin of this picture, how it was released. But I did see other pictures that showed she was just taking some pictures on her phone, and maybe she was positioned on the couch like that to take some better pics. Come on, people, there's plenty of hypocrisy to go around on both sides on a variety of things, but let's focus our energies on real issues that matter and not how the office of the president was seemingly disrespected, whether putting feet on a desk or feet on a couch, because if this is a major issue for you, really?
So the award for how to turn a what's up into a really goes to Khabib. I'm not going to pronounce this right, but Nurmagomedov, for single-handedly ruining one of the most highly anticipated fights of the year. So Khabib is a UFC lightweight and was set to fight with Michael Ferguson in one of the most important and biggest fights of the year, which had championship implications. Everybody was looking forward to it, and he had weight issues cutting weight, had to go to the hospital the day before the fight, and fight was canceled. And that would have been my what's up for the week had he not screwed that up. And the problem is, with mixed martial arts, people cut a lot of weight. It's part of the sport. As somebody, I've done a couple of amateur fights myself. Weight cutting sucks, but I did it with a full-time job. If you're a fighter, that's your job. That's like almost literally the one thing you have to do is make weight. You can go in and perform terribly. You cannot train. You cannot do anything, but you got to make weight. And there's no excuse for it because, again, he's getting paid. He's a pro fighter. There's hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars at stake. And there are pictures on Instagram of him eating fast food. So obviously he wasn't taking things seriously if he's eating fast food a month out of a huge fight with huge implications that really, there are millions of dollars at stake. So, but then I think maybe it's my fault because he's canceled fights before. This isn't the first time it's happened because of weight or the first time it's happened because of injury. So maybe I deserve the really because I keep falling for it and getting excited about fights. So give it to either me and anyone else who believes that he'll ever fight again, or him. But really for the week is Khabib for not making weight. Really? Again?
Really for me this week goes out to Vice President Michael Pence. Mike Pence has spent the better part of the last 2 years saying things about Democratic candidate Hillary Clinton, such as the most dishonest candidate since Richard Nixon because of her emails, has been recently found to be using AOL for his email account. Not only that, but in 2016, it was hacked. Someone hacked his email and sent emails to all of his contacts saying that he and mother were stranded in the Philippines and needed money. To everyone who was all upset about emails in the last presidential election, here's our vice president using an unsecure email and not following the steps to keep things with the laws of public office. So really, Mike Pence, AOL in 2016? Really?
My really this week goes out to Nintendo. For a company that's been on the verge of being irrelevant for the better part of a decade, they've finally come up with a product that everyone is dying for. The NES Classic, which retails around $59.99, and just about everyone I know wants one, yet they can't get it because Nintendo's unable to meet demand. Since November 11th. It's almost been 4 months, and that's left the market open for opportunists, or as I like to call them, bottom feeders, who are charging up to 3 times the MSRP on the system. This could be why your company's turning into the laughingstock of gaming consoles. I mean, see Sega. It's been 4 months. Still no NES Classic to be found anywhere. Nintendo. Really?
And that's going to do it for episode 21 of the Cynic Radio podcast. I'm Igrahi. With me has been my co-host, Cynic. Also this week, we've had Jules and Ryan George from the Jim Wits podcast. You can find him over at thejimwits.com. And special guest this week has been Linda. Thanks for coming. We had a great time. Send us your comments, questions, emails, concerns, and the phone number of anybody that can get us the NES Classic system at cost to cynicradio@gmail.com. cynicradio.com. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/CINIKRADIO and look for us on Twitter at CINIKRADIO. We'll be back next week with more fun and adventure with the crew. And until then, don't get captured.
Follow the podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and at CINIKRADIO.com. Available for download on iTunes.
Meanwhile, back at the Bang Bus,